C is for class. But Belle, how can you talk about this subject when you have none? Lol, as the Utes say. And does it exist anymore, as an article I read on an online paper questioned. In case you're wondering which paper it was, it begins with a G and ends in an Ardian. The answer to that question being yes, it fucking does. Using myself as an example, I'm a prime representative of the white working class. But Belle, although we can see you're white, how are you working class? Well, at one point it was the profession of your father which indicated which class you were born into. Now, seeing as my father was born into the profession of being a total and absolute cunt, this is likely not a good example. And seeing as this profession of his left me and my mother brassic, let's use wealth and environment as being a good indicator. Both getting a grading of poor in my case. Chin though, she's a more interesting example. Being the daughter of an engineer and, contrary to the perception of her growing up in a hut up a tree in a jungle somewhere in Africa, which she did not, she grew up in Igbo land in a nice house in a decent area and went to boarding school. As such, she is middle class, although not middle class where vegans frequent the soulmates dating site, if you know what I mean. Due to the wonderful nature of the English class system, she was immediately welcomed into the working class with open arms on account of her skin colour, accent and immigrant status. I say welcomed, more chucked in with her. She didn't have much of a choice. And I can't honestly say it was much of a warm greeting either. You're welcome, sweetheart. C is for cocoa butter. Beloved by Africans and people of colour everywhere. All that lovely melanin needed a bit more TLC than my pale excuse for an exterior coating. I admit, this coating does see a bit of Nivea from time to time, but I don't make it a habit, so keep stum. Another irony of being darker skin having a higher need for vitamin D, something you're unlikely to get by coming to a country with some of the worst weather in the world. C is for Corbyn. Chin just says, do that. C is for crime. Crime. It doesn't pay. Try telling that to the Tory party or Pablo Escobar. Mind you, he got shot to death, so that's probably not a great example, but up until that point, minted. Or try telling the 14-year-old boys running around the streets near me on bikes peddling drugs. Seriously, they got more paper than I have, which isn't hard seeing as I'm between jobs. Hey, if I was an actor, I could say I'm resting, but I ain't. I'm one of the good ones though, although I do feel sorry for those lads. I mean, I could have fallen in with a bad crowd, the wrong uns, the scallywags, there by the grace of God and all that. Although, yes, I am on probation, but that's for a perfectly good reason, so please reserve judgment. But that's what people do. Judge. And when I tell them the other halves of Nigerian extraction, they just give them that look, as if to say, oh yeah, I understand. Probably fraud. You don't understand the half of it, bruv, so read it in, son. Read it in. D is for dogs. Unconditional love, companionship and loyalty. But that's enough about me and Chin. I'm talking about man's best friend. Always pleased to see ya. Some food, a stroke and the occasional walk is all that is needed. Sounds a bit like me. Beloved by the British public, these creatures come in all shapes and sizes and generally stink. Little dogs. When did that become a thing other than for Yanks and gay couples? On people who let dogs lick their faces. You tried out some of the dogs round my manor, you're liable to get your face ripped off. Oh, and if you think I'm not much of a fan of dogs, then don't try bringing one anywhere near Chin. I thought it was just Chin who didn't like canines, but I'm telling you, after meeting her family, I'm thinking it's all Nigerian women. Oh, and apparently dogs are racist. But that's a topic for another day. D is for dogs. Again, in this case, greyhounds, my favourite type. Whether at the dog track, in the bookies, or watching on the net, these wonderful creatures bring me plenty of joy, and occasionally a few quid. Gin's happy to chuck a few quid at them as well, but don't bring one near her for a stroke, as she's liable to chuck something else at them, namely rocks.